groups, Group 4 and Group 6.
My name is Severina Nengo. You call me Seve. I'm responsible for Bachelor of Education in Senior Primary.
We are going to do the workshop notes of Dr. Frikkie Engelbreg. It is on page 0. The first part of the book goes up to page 11. And after page 11, there's a page 0 where the workshop notes start. And we are going to cover the workshop notes. I will give you the information with regards to the page numbers as we go along. Now on page 2, the principles guiding assessment. If we look at the principles guiding assessment, in the first place, assessment have different purposes, but it monitors the levels and quality of the learning that took place. The third one, assessment grades have a profound effect on the future careers of students and the image of an institute, and therefore examination papers, tests and other forms of assessment must be purposeful, fair and accurate. I'm not going to read all of it to you, I'm just going to touch the most important points. The next one, assessment policies and procedures must ensure that A, students are not over-assessed or under-assessed. B, the format of each assessment is appropriate to the purpose of the assessment. C, continuous assessment and feedback on its direct learning efforts motivate students and prepare them for the final examination. And the last one, D, that prescribed standards are adhered to in subjects and qualification types. If we go to page 3, the purposes of assessment. Assessment is important because it measures the students' growth, levels of quality of learning, or lack of growth in terms of understanding, values and skills in order to guide them where necessary. The second one, assessment results assist teachers and administrators to monitor the effectiveness of the teaching and the teaching learning resources. In the third place, it helps to motivate learners, students, to study more diligently when they discover their progress of lack of it in particular areas. Then, next one, it is important to develop a sense of accountability, discipline, and better study methods. Then it's more related to the learners at schools. It acquaints parents. And the last one, it diagnoses institutional of learners' problems that might hinder the achievement of future achievements. Let's go to page 4. Now, this one, I'm going to take these guidelines on page 4, table 1, the summary of guidelines for setting papers. So you can always go back to this summary if you set your papers. I'm going to do it one by one, instruction and assessment. Assignments should emphasize the same key outcomes and areas as the examination. The examination paper is, however, not totally identical with the examination scope, presentations given, and the assignments done by students. Ilana already discussed the relationship between the assignments and the examination paper and also the presentations. Point 2 of that table is plan outcomes according to scope and depth for achieving valid standards. It is 4.2 on page 5 if you want to go there. The standard of the examination papers is determined according to the scope and depth of material covered, as well as the balance between basic knowledge, higher levels, and very difficult levels. Let's go to page 5, Bloom, the descriptions. It's table 4, descriptions of the different levels of cognitive domain. On the right-hand side, the verbs that you are going to use or can use when you want to test the knowledge. Number 1, it's define, describes, identifies, labels, lists, matches, names, outlines, reproduces, select, state, repeats. Or synonyms for describe is depict, portray, illustrate, outline. Number 2 is also of the first level, the lower level. Comprehension, understand meaning of knowledge. It understands the facts and principles, interprets verbal material, interprets charts and graphs, translates verbal material to mathematical formulas, estimates future consequences implied in data, and justifies methods and procedures. Give examples, infers, paraphrases, predicts, rewrites, summarizes, and restate. And then the synonyms of both of them. Application. Okay, number 3 is application. This is level 2. And principles to new situations, applies laws and theories. On the right-hand side, the typical verbs for assessing that specific levels, changes, computes, demonstrates, discovers, manipulates, modifies, operates, predicts, prepares, produces, relates, shows, solve, uses, applies. And then number 4, analyze, analysis, identify elements, patterns, classifications, relations and differences, recognizes unstated assumptions, recognizes logical fallacies in reasoning, distinguishes between facts and inferences, evaluates the relevancy of data, analyzes the organizational structure of work like art, music and writing. And on the right-hand side, again, the verbs. Breaks down, analyzes, diagrams, differentiates, discriminates, distinguishes, identifies, illustrates, infers, outlines, point out, relates, selects, separates, subdivides, examines, discusses and investigates. So you have all the levels on the left-hand side and all the verbs that you can use on the right-hand side. The 5th one, we're just going through that quickly again. I know all of you can read, but I think it is really important. Synthesis is creative thinking, problem solving. Sorry.
Number 1 and 2 were level 1. Number 3 is level 2. Number 4, what level is that?
Number 4 is still level 2. Level 2. And then, okay, on the right-hand side, number 5, you can read the verbs, categorizes, combines, compiles, composes, creates, devises, designs, explains, generates, modifies, organizes, plans, formulates, rearranges, constructs, relates, reorganizes, revises, rewrites, summarizes, tells, writes, plan. And the last one, appraise the correctness of information, conclusions, and sources. On the right-hand side, the verbs, appraises, compares, concludes, contrasts, criticizes, judges, discriminates, discusses, achieve appropriate standards, use the appropriate levels of verbs. That we did that one just now. so that you can see. And number 4, the fourth point there, and 11, 4.4.5, 6, 7, it's about multiple choice questions. So if you want to ask multiple choice questions, please go through that, because it should only be 10 to 15 marks, but you can go to page 9, 10, 11, 4.4.1 up to 4.4.7. We'll give you all the necessary information and the rules. 5, limited choice. Choice questions provide for differentiation between learners, students, but could also contribute to unequal standards if choices are too many, not requiring the same verb level, or the type of question is not the same. One is a structured essay and the other one unstructured.
I said that it's a big concern if you have a failure rate higher than 50%. But it's also a problem if you have a 100% pass rate. Because, you know, there is a certain graph that needs to form, not a graph, a line that needs to form when marking question papers. There needs to be some failure, but the highest needs to be between 40 and 60%. And then it looks like this, it goes like that. And then there's a few that passes again and gets high marks like 80 and 100%.
But it also matters if there's only like 2 students.
Of course,
Then that's
of course,
yeah.
of course.
The number of students is also...
Of course. And you know, our statistics doesn't always look like that also, because you know, language is it's a challenge. I mean, the academic subjects are in English, and their mother tongues are from all 14 ethnic groups. So English is a challenge, and it might happen that you put the perfect paper in front of them and more fail than supposed to, and your graph might look a bit skew. So we do consider that, but I mean, you can't have 100% pass rate or 100% failure rate, then there's something wrong. Okay, so then I just want to also give you a little bit of advice. You know, when you have all these study guides, it's very difficult to set a question paper that's got that you get the same information. So it's much easier to use soft copies of a study guide and look for keywords. So say, for instance, you want to ask a question about Bloom. Let's take Bloom from curriculum development. Put in Bloom in all the study guides and see what information is similar in the guides, and then you compile your paper from there. In the hard copies, it's very difficult because, I mean, you've got the content page, but the content page doesn't actually have any detail in it. So it's much easier to, if you want to ask a question, put in a keyword in all the study guides. Get all the study guides in a soft copy. You can get that from your course coordinator. Then all you do is you put a keyword in and see where in the study guides, different study guides, you can get all the information from. We also did away with the assignment presentations because, you know, we found that none of the students used the assignment presentations. They've got access to you, first of all, so they can phone you, which they can't actually in the exam, but they can phone you. They can get it on the internet. They can get it in their study guides. It's like an open book test. And they've got the tutorial later. They've got the whole, the resource center. They can get information from anywhere they want to. It's the scope of content and outcomes covered. Now that is basically where the assignment must prepare you. What it says is that the assignment must prepare you for the examination. And the examination and the assignment must relate. They must be in harmony. They must relate to each other. Okay, so the first one is priority content of this syllabus is covered in the assignment and in the examination. So the most important, what the subject is about. You know, sometimes there's a lot of interesting facts That's also in the book, but it's not that important. So what this tells you is that the important stuff needs to be covered, not the interesting stuff. The important stuff needs to be covered in the assignment and in the question paper. The next one says cover many important units and topics. Now, we all know that normally Unit 1 is very important because it covers all the definitions and it gives you an overview of what you're going to do next. And sometimes we get units that's only 10 pages and others that's 20 or 25 pages. So obviously some units are going to be covered in more depth and some are going to have more questions from the unit, but don't leave a unit out. Even if you ask only one question about a unit, let's cover the whole book. Let's just make sure that we have at least that unit that is not important and that's only 10 pages. Let's make sure we at least ask one question from that. Okay, and then the last one there is just that the exam paper and the assignment needs to be in harmony with each other. Okay, then when we go to the standard levels, Cecile covered that. The first one is just that you should keep in mind the prescribed syllabus standards. So the time, the mark ratio, the weight per section and topic. What this means is that each and every subject have a certain number of credits. So say for instance, we get actually subjects from level, in our teaching qualifications and in the police qualifications, we get from Unit 2, which is the computer literacy, and then we get 3, which is the basic first aid. So we have all levels, and then we get most of them are level 8, level 10, level 12. And then we get some of the school subjects, which is not level, sorry, credits, number of credits, which have 14 and 16 credits. Now what these credits mean is that the more credits you've got, the longer the course is, the more notional hours is assigned to that subject. So, and a notional hour for every 1 credit, you've got 10 notional hours. So if it's a 8 credit subject, you must spend 80 hours on that subject. That is what it basically say. So you must make sure that, and that is also why you will see in the assessment, in your syllabus, you will find that there's an assessment policy. Now that assessment policy tells you that your subject is 8 credits, and it will count 100 marks. It tells you how many question papers there are. Basically, that assessment policy tells you what this 2.1 says. So this got to do with the and like I explained, some of the units is less pages than others. So then obviously there's going to be less questions from that. So it means that you must make sure that if it's a long unit, you must ask more questions from that. If it's a short unit, you must ask less questions from that. So that's basically what 2.1 tells you. And then 2.2 is the different kinds of questions that Cecile also covered. There's short questions and longer questions, and then there's easier ones and more difficult ones. There's essay questions and fact questions. So it's important that you put a little bit of all of them in there. Now, what I said in the previous workshop is, please, we tend to, or we used to tend to ask long questions, which counts 15 and 20 and 25 and 30 marks. Please, if the student doesn't know that answer, he's going to lose 30 marks. So let's make our questions a little bit shorter. So ask more 5 and 10-point questions so that we make sure that if he doesn't know one thing, it's not going to make him fail. Okay, so make your questions count a little bit less. And then you can also cover more work, which is important. Okay, and then we go, the next one is very important, and Cecile went through that in detail. 70, 20, 10. 70 must be basic knowledge, facts.
Can I ask something?
Yes, please.
Do we use these percentages for
Yes. Yes, because the assignment prepares you for the examination, so it must look like an examination question paper. The student must actually see his question paper in this assignment. So if there's going to be choice questions, maybe you can also put the choice question in your assignment. You know, let them see what the question paper is going to look like, not the exact questions. And also, I didn't mention this, but if you, I'm not saying, when I say 30% of the assignment needs to be in the examination, don't put that question word for word exactly the same in this question paper. Obviously, the content must be the same, but change it a little bit. Change it so that they see you did a little bit of effort and you didn't just go and put it. Some of the things you can't. Obviously, some questions can only be asked a certain way, and that's fine. But do a bit of effort there. So 70% for the basic knowledge question, 20% for the higher level thinking, and then 10% for the very high level of thinking. Okay, and then we go on to 2.4. Marks are allocated, and that I already said, for thinking required on a higher level, so more of your own opinion, of the student's own opinion. Then we go to 2.5, options. So if there's different study guides, you give them option question or choice questions. But it's very important, and Cecile already said that if you give the student 2 options and it's a level 2 question, the other one must also be a level 2 question. If it's a level 3 question, the other one must also be a level 3 question. Then realistic marks allocated. So that's where I said no half marks, no double marks. So you don't give for one fact 2 marks. The next one is marks per question, paper and section I indicated. Obviously, you're going to say question 2, 2.1, this one counts 5 marks, 2.2, 10 marks, 2.3, 5 marks. And then you must, so that is your allocation to the section, to the question, and then the section. So question 2 must count up to 20 marks. 5 plus 10 plus 5 is 20, and that is what that says. Then the multiple choice questions are technically correct. And then you can go back to your notes. There's a lot of information on the multiple choice questions in those documents of Frikkie. Go through them if you want to ask multiple choice questions. I see in the document of Dr. Engelbrecht, it says that actually multiple choice is not required, is not standard to tertiary education. But you know, you can set multiple choice questions very clever. I mean, I don't like my multiple choice because they might sometimes just be so confusing. So we're not saying you're not allowed to ask multiple choice questions. If you have five multiple choice questions, then that is perfectly fine. 5 or 10. 10 to 15, yes.
We are not allowed to do so true and false.
You know, true and false, but then you can maybe say, you know, give a reason. Give a reason why you say it's true or false. Then it's not just true and false, but they must also say why it's true. So they can't just guess. So you can actually ask basically anything. You can put, you know, where they need to link the stuff, because you can ask those kinds of questions on a higher level. You can.
I would just want to find out that what I'm seeing here is that the type of questions that we ask, we kind of generalize. It doesn't matter whether the person is in first year, second year, third year, or fourth year. So I was thinking that perhaps maybe in the first year we have low-level questions, but as the levels of study goes, so as the critical questions kind of also comes into question. So can you maybe just enlighten us about the type of question versus the levels of study? Because the first year students cannot be on the same level as the second year and the fourth year student. So what is your input there?
Okay, thank you very much. It's got absolutely nothing to do in what year you are, Because you must remember, a subject is on a certain level. When you go and register it on the NQF levels, you get, like I said, the computer literacy is on level 2. So already the study guide will not cover too difficult stuff. So basically, you're gonna, when you set a study guide, so when the curriculum developer develop a syllabus for a subject, what he does, what he does is he goes and the outcomes in that curriculum basically will be of lower, it will be less content and it will be of lower content. So if you have computer literacy is actually a great example. You won't do development and analysis and stuff that is like the, jy moet my eintlik help. You won't do, you will do the basics. How to save, how to, how to do a basic Word document, how to use a basic Excel sheet. It won't cover programming and things like that. So the study guide and the content of the study material already make provision for that. When you set a question paper, it must always look like this. You must always have, in that question paper, you must have 70% facts, which they can learn. You must have 20% higher level questions, and then 10% that the clever students will be able to answer. So the level has absolutely, the question paper, these levels has nothing to do with the NQF levels.
I think you rather also tell us on the issue of NQF level, because the modality on how we set examinations depends on the NQF level.
Exactly.
So it shouldn't mean which year, but the NQF level plays more roles in this case.
Yeah, because the work on a level 8 is of much higher thinking, and so that's already covered in the study guide. I mean, it's already more thinking for yourself. It gives you you will find that the study guide for a level 5 and a study guide for a level 8 is two totally different things. The content that you will find in a level 5 is going to be basic, but the content that you will find will definitely be more challenging. So if the study guide doesn't provide for that and the course content doesn't provide for that, then there's something wrong with the material. It's very important that, own thinking and own facts needs to be considered. And then you can just read through that, but the memorandum is one of the most important documents, like I explained. I want you to go to page 36. 36 is now the moderator checklist and report for moderated marked scripts. So that's that 10% of question papers that goes to the moderator. Now I already said, laat ek nou net my papierie kry. I already said to you that there's a big difference between the marks of the moderator and the marker. What I want to ask you, the moderators, please, if there's a difference of 1 or 2 or 3 marks, and it's not going to make a difference to pass and fail, or to a distinction or not, then please don't change the marks. Because, I mean, in the end of the day, it means as soon as a mark is changed on that moderated batch, then we need to go and change that mark on the system. Now, I mean, 2 or 3 marks, look, we all think different, we all do things differently, so there will always be a difference. And if the difference is 1, 2 or 3 marks, then just keep it the way it is. because in the end of the day, that student will still fail, he will still pass, he will still not get a distinction, or he will still get a distinction. If it's 1 or 2 or 3 marks and it makes a difference, then you do it. So if it's now 48% and he can get 50 by your moderation, then please give him the 50%.
But then it seems as if the moderator did not do his or her job.
And that is exactly...
That's why you go through the 10% and if there's a difference then you indicate it. But otherwise it seems as if we did not do the moderation.
No, if you did the moderation and you find that the marking was that good, then I mean that also need to be communicated to these tutors. They need to see my marking was up to standard. And this is where this report comes in. Then you indicate this on this report. You say it was excellently marked. There was differences, and you write it on this report. There was differences, but the differences was so small that it wasn't indicated. And you can say, as requested by IOL. So, and we read this because there was now, and I don't actually want to say this, but I'm going to. There was a mark adjustment done for the TLR, for what was it, for teaching learning resources. Because a moderator's report came back and it gave us, if you look at number 12, it says, mark ought to be adjusted in accordance with the average performance. Mark should be condoned upward with, and then the suggestion was 5%. But then the person gave the reason. It was, ek kan maar eintlik sê, it was suggested by Isabel because and then she said, it wasn't that the marking was bad, but no consideration was given to own thinking and own thoughts and own opinion of the students. So, and then what we did was, our systems does it, we adjust the marks with 5%. We will never ever adjust any marks if it didn't come from the moderator. Never. If we see if we see 100% and it did happen, 100% of the students fail, but there's no suggestions by the moderator, we will not do any adjustments. We won't. Because it doesn't justify us doing it. So this is why this report is extremely, extremely important. And I think, I mean, you all can read, so you can read through that. That is what, if you mark, this is what the moderator looks at. This is what the moderator will look at, and that is what you need to look at as a marker. This is just a special request. Please, if a student gets 74%, please see if you can find 1% to give him a distinction. Because you know it's, or rather give him 73% because it's heartbreaking. If you're a student and you see I've got 74% with 1%, I'm not saying you must do that if you can't find that 1%. But if you can find it, it will be great. And then another thing, obviously, also if a student fail, sometimes it's not only 1 mark because it counts out of 100 or 130. And if it becomes 3 or 4 marks, then it's a problem. So I'm not telling you to give students 3 or 4 marks. But if it's 1 mark, 1 point that you need to give a student, and it will make a difference to pass or fail, or distinction or not distinction, then please, let's see if we can either help them or give them less so that they don't feel that sad.